What is up, YouTube? Guys, Jericho426 coming at you with another Marvel Contest of Champions video. And today, guys, we have something a little bit different. We are actually going to do a damage comparison video. Now, if you've seen any of Kingslayer's channel, he does a lot of damage comparisons between champions. But today we are actually going to do a damage comparison between Odin and Odin. So in Odin, at his base special 2, where he gets most of his damage, Odin at his max unique buff special 2, and also a couple of bad scenarios for Odin to be in, and just kind of see what range his damage kind of hits. So we're doing this because I was doing the new 6-star feature crystals just last week, and I made a comment that I already have a 6-star Odin. I didn't really care to duplicate him. I didn't really want him, and a lot of people took that as meaning that I really don't like the Odin champion, and I didn't want him in my roster, and that's absolutely not the case. I just think there may be some other Cosmic champions that were better, mostly Cosmic Ghost Rider, but again, not all of us can be Cosmic Ghost Rider, right? So that being said, I decided to sit down, break down the damage numbers, and really see what kind of potential Odin has. And I figured, hey, why not share this with everybody else? So, if you are enjoying the content on the channel, guys, I would really appreciate if you would hit that little subscribe button for me. We're getting really close to 300 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for the support. And then make sure you throw me a little thumbs up. Just takes like half a second, just a little thumbs up on this video, guys. I'd really appreciate all the likes. So, without further ado, let's get in. Here is the damage comparison video of Odin to Odin. So the first numbers we want to look at for the Special 2 are just from a base Odin Special 2. So this is the Odin that has his standard Fury and Armor Up buff that he always starts with, along with the Aptitude buff that comes with the Odin Sleep. So we're going to go ahead and activate our Special 2 and see what his normal damage profile looks like. You can see the initial hit hits for 5,074. And then he's going to charge his staff, and then he's going to hit for a combination of 5,522 along with 45,192 burst damage. This gives the base Odin Special 2 a total damage profile of 55,788. So now let's start adding on buffs incrementally and see how it affects the damage increase of his Special 2. We're going to start by adding in just a heavy attack, and you're going to gain that energized buff that you can see here in purple. We're then going to activate our Special 2 once we're done getting hit by Winter Soldier, and you can see the initial damage is 2,367 because we did not hit the crit on the initial strike. We're going to charge, and then we're hitting for 11,839 plus a burst damage of 60,256. So just by adding in one extra buff, we are increasing his damage to 74,462, which is around about a 33% increase. Now we're going to add on to the energized buff that we got from the heavy attack by building up our Odin Force charges and then throwing the Special 1. This will give us 2 additional buffs as long as you hit it with an Odin Force charge. So you're going to get your Vigilance buff and your Bulwark buff. We're going to build towards our Special 2 again, and the initial hit again does not crit in this one, but you can see we hit for 3,019 damage. Now we're going to once again charge his staff, and his next hits, you will get a regular hit of 7,044 with a burst damage of 90,383. This gives us a total damage value of 100,446, or about an 80% increase versus the base Special 2 that we're testing against. Now we want to test and see what Odin's maximum damage potential is. Now to do this, we must have gained all the unique buffs possible on Odin. That includes the energized buff from his heavy attack, his Vigilance, and his Bulwark buff from his Odin Force Special 1, and finally the Extend buff from his Special 3 if it's thrown with the Odin Force. So we are then going to build back up to our Special 2. It's a little bit quicker now that we have 6 energized buffs happening. And then we're going to see, we're not going to hit our critical damage again on this initial strike, but we are going to hit for 4,702. So not too terrible in the initial strike. Then we're going to charge a staff, and you're going to see we're going to hit for a base damage with a crit of 19,143 with a burst damage of 105,447. This is going to give us a total damage value of 129,292, or about a 132% increase. This is a huge increase in damage, and he's hitting about as hard as Cosmic Ghost Rider in some of his rotations. This is not quite max Cosmic Ghost Rider potential, but still very, very heavy. So next I wanted to test Odin with kind of a full synergy team here. So by adding in both Angela and Heimdall, you're going to gain some extra buffs, not unique buffs, so it won't add to the overall buff pool, but you are going to add an extra Fury, so you're going to have 3 Furies when throwing your special 2. In addition, if adding Mephisto to your team, you're going to increase your attack rating by about 5% for every living member on the team. So let's see, when adding in like a full synergy team, what kind of damage output Odin has. So you can see we've placed all the buffs on Odin possible, including an extra Fury buff that we got from the Angela and Heimdall synergy, plus his overall damage is being increased by the Mephisto synergy. His initial hit is going to crit and hit for 9,104 damage. And then, as we go into the second part of his special 2, we're going to hit for 21,241 damage, plus the 105,447. Now you will notice this burst damage number will not change because we have no extra unique buffs on Odin. Even with an extra Fury, it does not matter. You have to have a unique buff in order to increase burst damage. This gives us a total damage value of 135,792, which is about a 143% increase. But I will say that when I tested it several times, I didn't always get this damage value because I wasn't hitting critical strikes. So if you don't hit crits, even with the extra Fury, you can actually still hit under what we showed for his last special 2's max damage. So this absolutely makes Odin a force to be reckoned with. He is definitely a top tier champ. He can dish out massive amounts of damage. However, Odin does come with some fairly big downsides, which is one of my bigger issues with the champion. The first being that he has to Odin sleep, which means you can use him in back-to-back matches. However, you're going to lose that aptitude buff, which means your Fury and your armor up buff are not going to be as potent. So you can see here, we're going to test his damage in a match where he has no Odin sleep. And we're just going to test without the aptitude buff and see what kind of damage potential he has. So we have max buff potential on Odin, and with no aptitude buff, we are going to hit for 4,568. Still not too bad at all versus some of the other numbers we've seen. And then he's going to hit for a total of 18,597 with the crit and 90,208. This gives him a total damage of 113,373, which is about a 103% increase with no Odin Sleep aptitude buff active. So still not bad at all. He's still hitting very hard and he's still very viable without Odin Sleep. Finally, I wanted to share with you guys a mistake that I made just the other day when I took Odin into one of the Act 5 chapters that had a global buffet node active. Now again, the buffet node will nullify a buff every 7 seconds off of the attacker. This will regenerate some of the defender's health. Now with Odin, again, this is a problem because he needs all of his unique buffs in order to increase his damage potential, and of course he's just unable to gain these buffs. Someone like Cosmic Ghost Rider can actually bypass this node a little bit. If you play your cards right, you can still get up to where you have your special 2 and you can still throw a special 2 and his base special 2 damage is really, really good. But for Odin, as you'll see, if you don't have any buffs active, your special 2 damage just tanks. And so we're still going to use our synergy team and see if we can increase it. But again, you're going to see as the buffet node nullifies all these, his special 2 damage just completely bottoms out. So we have our Odin Sleep active, but as you can see, all of our buffs are immediately nullified at the beginning of the match. We have nothing going into this fight. And so as we hit our special 2 damage, you're going to see the initial hit only hits for 1,321. And then his follow-up strikes. And now you're not going to gain any burst damage off of this because you don't have any active buffs. So you're only going to hit for a maximum with a crit of 6,545. This makes his total damage to potential during a buffet node or with no buffs 7,867. So this highlights the main problem with Odin, and that is that if he cannot retain buffs, then he is just unable to dish out any damage. I mean, this is one of the worst special 2 damage numbers in the entire game. Whereas another cosmic champion like Cosmic Ghost Rider, even without buffs, his special 2 can still hit very, very hard. Now, on the other hand, if Odin is able to retain his buffs, he is phenomenal and he can dish out a lot of damage. So he is not a terrible champion, he is a great champion, but he is a great champion in the right kind of match. Now, if you do not have the perfect match for Odin, that's fine because he synergizes really well and he has great pre-fight abilities with other champions of the game. So it does not make him useless. However, if you're going to use Odin, I would recommend just make sure you are taking him in to the perfect kind of fight.